The real party members reveal that it's not the first time they're replaced by fakes, and they chase the monsters away, knowing their reputation would fade soon if they let these guys run around. Eliha outstretches her hands to the fallen man who is ignorantly going to lead the monsters to Shachiku, assuring him that she won't charge for a handshake. The party members turn to an old lady and thank her for drawing their attention to the fakes. Masamu is surprised that she can see through monsters, but he also commends her quick wits as she silently exposed them. The old lady says that she fears monsters whenever she encounters them till today. They wonder what kind of psychological trauma an old lady who is not an adventurer must have passed through to be this way. Masamu assures her that they'll defeat the Demon King together with the hero. In fact, if things go according to plan, they might not need much of the hero's help. Meanwhile, at the same time, Shachiku and his companions are on their way to Arachne's castle. Since they're tired of running, Shachiku suggests they do cartwheels, as a correct cartwheel doubles one's running speed. However, he mentions that most speedrunners got tendinitis, leading to it being banned in speedrunning. Again, Kira can't fully comprehend Shachiku. The more she knows him, the more he seems a mystery. Rewind to 11 years ago at the royal castle. A young Kira screams at people to not take her friend Ada away. She's the eldest daughter of the Lechifica dukedom, while Ada is the first princess. The priest orders her to address Ada with respect, but she insists they're friends, so it's okay. Meanwhile, the chief priest explains that Ada is the saintess of salvation, and must be taken for training to ensure she's ready for the day of summoning the hero. Kira insists that she's not fine with it because the priests bully Ada during the training. They explain that the flogging is to train her spirit. Summoning the hero from the other world takes more than just child's play. It will require Ada to stay up and chant for 10 straight days, and she must be trained to do such. The priests reveal that the hero can only be summoned once in 100 years, when the stars of both worlds align. If missed, it means they would enter a dark era for the next 100 years. They respect Kira's father for being second only to the royal family, but they insist that they must take Ada. However, Kira points out that they rely on summoning someone from another world when they can defeat the Demon King themselves. The chief priest shakes her head, saying Kira is an 8-year-old who doesn't know anything. Besides, she doesn't have skills like Ada. Surprisingly, Kira bravely disarms a guard and takes his sword. She swears on her family's name to become the best swordsman in this world and defeat the Demon King herself. Even though this didn't stop the priests from taking Ada, Kira works towards her promise, taking sword lessons from her grandfather. She continues to have impressive feats, and even takes the Lechifica armor at 18, something only the strongest swordsman is allowed to wear. Ada went on to become the greatest saintess in history, but her fight isn't over even after the Demon King's death. Back to the present, Kira knows she was only a child then, and she now understands the heavy burden carried by Ada, and she would like to share some of that burden. Meanwhile, she realizes they've passed the North Plaza, the place where they should meet the S-rank party. Shachiku has that sneaky smile again, as he reveals that he never mentioned they needed an S-rank party. He says he didn't want to say anything because of Jean. He continues on running and his companions follow. Rewind to 50 years ago now. Lauren and her little sister Norin prepare to go to the mountains and pick strawberries. While their guardian allows it, he reminds them that the village head has warned them to be careful about the monsters outside the village. After all, the village wouldn't want to lose their two prettiest faces. While in the mountains, Norin asks her older sister about her interest in the otherworld hero. She reveals that she's read stories about his past adventures and would love to journey with him. Lauren doesn't mince words, as she reminds Norin she has a weak body. However, Norin reveals that she's also read about given skills, how humans are rewarded with blessings for training hard. With the skills, adventures are much easier. Lauren admires her sister's confidence, but she reminds her that they'll both be old by the time the next hero arrives. Meanwhile, the smell of smoke fills the air. They look from the mountains and see their village on fire and under attack by spider monsters. They're terrified, but they calm themselves to think about their next move. However, a monster interrupts their plans by landing in their path. The monster brands Lauren as trash and hits her down, hurting her right eye in the process. Lauren, while nearly unconscious, can still hear her little sister's screams, as she's killed by the monster for her skill. Just then, Lauren wakes up in her home, back in the present. It is the old woman who can see through monsters. It's been 50 years, and that event still haunts her. Meanwhile, Shachiku and his companions arrive at what is the present-day Tadanka village, now called the Spider's Highway. This is the village where Norin and Lauren lived. Shachiku informs them that he intends to pass through here rather than the Forest of the Dead, as they already have the strange rod. Kira is aware of the events that happened here 50 years ago, and she knows that people are forbidden from entering Arachne's domain no matter what. However, she also notes that the village doesn't look deserted even without people around. It looks like people were around not long ago. Danya points to Shachku already jogging away, and he asks them to keep up with him, as this may be the hardest spot of the subjugation speedrun. Even though Arachne's castle is still far ahead, they soon run into some of his underlings. Kira intends to fight, but Shachku asks her to save her skills for the real fight. He intends to go through without fighting, asking them to watch and copy his moves. Shachku has mastered the spider's fixed movement, so he efficiently dodges them, as do Kira and Danya. However, the spiders chase after them, so Shachku says it's time for them to toss their gold coins at them. Throwing coins proves an effective way of dealing damage to the enemy, while stopping them from chasing after. As the spiders are attracted to the gold coins, Shachku simply lets it fly. This must be why he needed so many gold coins. Shachku commends them for their running talent, and Kira is confused about why one would be commended for being able to run. She starts to put things together and starts to wonder whether this is all just a game to Shachku. Rewind to a day ago. At the Demon King's throne, Morphomet, the Demon King's daughter, summons the Elite Four: herself, the spider, the Duke soaked in red blood, and the hungering black quagmire. She intends to avenge her father's death by killing the Otherworld hero and getting his head. The Elite Four arrive from the Gate of Purgatory, a magic gate that links their bases to the Round Table. Arachne, the Queen of Spiders, arrives late and the others tease her about it. Brahms, the blood-soaked Duke, and Raspy, the Quagmire, say things that get on her nerves. It looks like the Elite Four aren't always in agreement. Just moments after arriving, they start yelling and hurling insults at each other until Morphomet intervenes. She brings up their reason for meeting: the death of the Demon King. She speaks affectionately about her father. Weird. She tells them how the hero was only summoned the previous day and defeated the Demon King that same day. The Demon King's sudden death is too hard to believe, so Morphomet makes them watch the death scene on the Eye of the Dead mirror, a mirror that projects the events one encountered just before their death. The mirror shows Shachku evading all the Demon King's attacks like child's play and counterattacking, ending the battle in just 3 hits. To make it more embarrassing, they discover Shachku used a wooden stick instead of the holy sword. Morphomet declares the act unforgivable and promises to kill the hero in the worst way possible. Meanwhile, she notes that Arachne has been quiet, and seems to have something on her mind. She asks what it is, but the Spider Queen insists it's nothing. In truth, it's more than nothing. Arachne secretly detests Morphomet, and only answers to her because she's the Demon King's daughter. The meeting is over, and they head back to their respective castles. At Arachne's, she expresses her desire for the Otherworld hero's power. With his power, she figures she can finally get rid of Morphomet, Raspy, and even the irritating Brahms. She intends to turn Shachku into her puppet. Arachne admires the skill Shachku used to end the Demon King, terming it a legendary skill. She reveals that she knows exactly how to get the power for herself. As much as she hates men, she must make Shachku her puppet. The skill is Karna Kavaka, which can make her defense invincible, being impervious to attacks from anyone. She figures that no matter how strong Shachku's weapon is, it's still just a physical attack, and as such must bow to her defense. If only the shield could become a spear, then she would have been able to defeat the Demon King. However, she knows she'll still get a chance to rule the world when she captures Shachku as her puppet. Arachne remembers how she's had to obediently submit to the Demon King all along, but it's all going to be different now, as she intends to become the new Demon King. Arachne looks around and doesn't find any of her underlings. She wonders where they are now, as she still has orders to pass to them. She goes down the castle to order them to capture the Otherworld hero. To her utter shock, the one whom she wants to capture stands right there. In 12 minutes and 35 seconds, Shachku is making good time. Arachne wants power, so she must either seize it or be killed here. Kira comes face to face with the Demon King Elite Four, Arachne, certain that they will definitely bring her down. Right before entering the Arachne fight, they huddle together with Shachku, stating that Arachne will be releasing an endless stream of small spiders. These spiders would attack them, leaving them defenseless while attacking Arachne. It is up to Kira to clean up the small spiders with area of effect attacks. She doesn't mind focusing on this task, but she wonders if they will have a clear sheltered victory. Danya reassures them that they have already beaten the Demon King, who is stronger than Arachne. Judging by the health of the Wyvern in the capital, and the Orthrus encounter in the outskirts, despite the usual appearance of only trash mobs and judging by the spider appearance pattern earlier, even though the difficulty was easy when subjugated, the Demon King might have been changed to very hard. because they defeated the last boss with no damage. To sum up, the current Arachne is stronger than the Demon King they defeated. Yeah, that's not what they were expecting to hear, but Shachiku cools them down by stating the speedrun route is already built with that in mind. It means they cannot kill her in one shot. Since Arachne's health is quite high, they need to attack many times to defeat her with certainty. Cleaning up the trash mobs is an essential prerequisite, and that's why he brought Kira. Arachne descends the stairs, chuckling that she didn't expect them to come. She is happy to meet the otherworld hero and doesn't plan to let him escape. She's even excited about the new toys he's brought as well, sure that she will turn them all into puppets. Kira is hit first, sinking to her knees, unable to move. She got stunned. Arachne went for the intimidation attack at the very beginning with a 5% chance, an unlucky move for the hero team. Shachiku tosses something into Danya's hand, called the Mana Recovery Salve, a purple potion, and the plan is that until Kira recovers, she would clear out the trash mobs with the purple potion. Shachiku has calculated that Danya-san will barely have enough MP for this, but Danya reassures she has it covered. Arachne mentions she doesn't know what they have planned, but it's a pointless struggle. She doesn't stop Danya from releasing Nakomata Fire, which uses up MP to attack with fireballs and is Danya's primary AoE magical attack. Meanwhile, Shachiku says that Kira isn't totally worn off of her stun. He asks her to please not take her eyes off the moment, because this is the finale of the Arachne subjugation speedrun. Arachne mentions she's already covered by Karna Kavacha. It's Arachne's defensive skill, one which is absolutely invincible and in the Legend class. It can nullify every attack, whether it be physical or magical, and is the strongest. One thing she's sure of is that the otherworld hero will not make it out alive. Maybe she should have done less talking and more paying attention, because Shachiku strikes with some coins. The problematic thing about the Arachne fight is her absolutely invincible defensive skill. Since no attack will work, whether it's physical, magical, or spiritual, the Strange Rod isn't usable here. But for Danya, it seems like a way to run away from enemies, and she doesn't classify it as an attack. He counters that even if it's not an attack, in On-versus game system, coin throwing is not categorized as an attack, and thus is not affected by Karna Kavacha. In this game, coin throwing is a special action, which allows you to deal damage to enemies through throwing coins, and guarantees the ability to run away from enemies. Since Arachne is a boss fight, you can't run, even if you do throw coins. They can utilize the implication of that because they cannot run. It means they can throw coins as many times as they want. They can use coin throwing's damage-dealing property as an artificial type of attack. By the way, if they fight her normally, they will die. Normally, they would need to get a Legend class item to undo Arachne's skill, but that eats up quite a lot of time. This is where the coin throwing shines. Coin throwing damage is set to the amount of money you throw, and this fight takes around 30 times of throwing the max that one can. Under this continuous throwing, she can't move and is disoriented. When Arachne gets to half health, if Danya can knock her down with good timing, it would cancel her second phase transformation. The second phase has her traits being shot around, and they won't want that. It's good that they're able to skip the transformation cutscene that's 60 seconds long. Kira just watches, frozen and confused as hell about what is going on. What she can tell is that here's a guy who's been constantly throwing coins, a monster who's struggling from the coins thrown at her, and she can't believe that this is the hero that fights Arachne. He might come off as a clown, but he has no fear. He's spared over all of that. He's ignored it all. He only has one thing on his mind right now, and that is to beat the enemy as fast as possible. It's truly ridiculous. Well, yeah, it is what it is. And Danya realizes she's out of magic and has already used the potion. Shachiku is still throwing coins, and Danya regrets not having Ada's body because she wouldn't run out of mana so easily. She ends up in the spider's range of attack, but Kira releases her Valkyrie Sweet Waltz. Yes, the storm she felt is over, and she's ready to battle. Arachne sees that she's in a corner and is ready to offer all of her puppets, including her land, her castle, and her servants. Whatever it is, she's willing to give, as long as she doesn't die pathetically. Shachiku, seeing her plead for her life, remembers so many other women that must have done the same, and he decides that time is more important than life. Shachiku defeats Arachne and goes into a post-run thought, but us and Kira included, we'd rather do without the whole babbling again. He defends that he reflects on things after every speedrun, and has to make the most of it for next time. Next time? There's gonna be a next time? They notice the castle is crumbling, but luckily Danya has a Matatabi travel instrument that allows one to instantly travel to an already visited location. It is a special class magic tool loaned to Danya by the royal family. She announces that their destination will be the capital, Falshla. We arrive back at the Adventurers Guild Ada's shield. Out of breath, Jean has something to give, and it's called a jailbreak thread, a rare consumable item that allows one to escape from various dungeons and boss battles. The price is 8,000 sen. Shachku is confused, and Jean wonders why. He thought they were going to subjugate Arachne, and he has every reason to be confused because it hasn't even been 9:30. It took just 15 minutes to down Arachne. Jean states that Shachku can at least return home alive if he has the jailbreak thread, as even if he is the hero, he'd feel bad if a guild kohai dies on him. So Shachku breaks it down for him. Arachne has already been defeated. At the Demon King's round table, a group of people watched the teleportation mirror, exclaiming that Arachne was just here yesterday. One of them wants to watch it again, calling it a death worth good coins. It's so dumb it makes her laugh, but it serves the spider right. Her Karnakavacha is ultimately something she borrowed. She was defeated without even knowing its weakness. A fitting end for a foolish insect like her. She's the worst out of the Elite Four. Another guy comments that the other two are being quite harsh. Well, yeah, that's what demons do. They are both complete demons. Their ridicule is not arrogance, it's a privilege reserved for the strong. The hero defeated the Demon King on the first day he was summoned. He defeated Arachne on the third day. Hard to believe, but it did actually happen. How did he know Arachne's weakness that even our strange antagonists didn't know on his first fight? Does he have some kind of legend-class future sight? Or maybe an appraisal skill from the goddess? Thinking deeply, the antagonist doesn't see an answer yet and has no explanation. What he does know is that Shachku's movements look too polished. It's like he already knew her weakness from the start, and had experienced the same sort of fight before, over and over again, practicing it many times. It's impossible for something like that to happen. Thinking back on how he took the demon's head just like that, it's quite impossible to think that the Demon King whom humanity fought against with all of their wisdom for thousands of years was easily killed with blows from a stick. Since the Demon King doesn't have weaknesses, he wonders if Arachne's weakness is even gold coins. Is it any different from throwing stones? From a durability perspective, human gold coins cannot have that much firepower even when enchanted. Even if that's possible, why did Arachne not know that? She wasn't exactly ingenious, but was she foolish enough to blindly believe in a flawed trump card? So many thoughts, and he has to slow down. There's not enough information to continue inferring anymore. It's more dangerous to latch onto preconceived notions based on faulty speculations. Either way, the hero is an unprecedented threat. The thousands of years of demon dominance are about to crumble, and the antagonist knows they have to eliminate or persuade him somehow. He wonders if Moore will give up on taking revenge, though that's highly unlikely. Moore is geared up to face the interesting otherworld hero. Meanwhile, it's rise and shine for Shachku. He's missing his smartphone and can't find it anywhere. He searches again, not realizing he's half naked and the girls are close by. When he's more settled, he apologizes for his indecency. He was in a bad mood. You could say his head is a bit clearer. He does remember that he got summoned to the world of another verse, sped around the Demon King as usual on the first day, and got the Elite for Arachne 2 days after that. And this is the 4th day. Shachku notices that Kira has a change of outfit. It's the outfit from her Onverse First DLC, the Valkyrie holiday costume. Kira replies that he's been fighting for the last 3 days, and she's sure fatigue must be settling in, so she wants him to forget about fighting for at least the day, resting his mind and body. Her thoughts are that he would feel uneasy if a woman in armor came to see him, so she dressed up like this to be considerate. She wants to know if it's weird that she's dressed differently than usual. It's not weird at all to him. It suits her, compared to her usual bikini armor. Danya offers that they take a walk around town since the weather is nice, but Shachku mentions that he does have somewhere to go. Meanwhile, it seems Kira is starting to have a crush or something like that. If she looks at him closely, she can see he has quite a nice face. Sadly, she's not so much of a subtle starer, because he notices her looking and she mentally tells herself to get a grip. Still, her mind wanders. Her mind wanders to the possibility that Danya and Shachku might already be in a relationship, because why else would she react so calmly to seeing Shachku half naked? Her thoughts are all over the place, and the oblivious Danya remarks her friend seems kind of interesting today. Shachku adds that at least this doesn't seem like a bug or a virus. As they walk around town, people point out it's the vibrating hero, and a crowd starts to gather, seeing that he's the otherworld hero. One person asks if he's done with Arachne, as he heard the story from Jean. At least they know he wasn't the suspicious person they thought he was, but damn, Jean has a loose mouth. Danya adds that Arachne's castle is a stone's throw away from the capital, so they can't actually hide either way. Shachku is getting attention. It's like being in the waiting room for speedrun events. Little children come to ask him questions. Later on, they arrive at the Newtown refugee quarter where the old woman is waiting for them. Shachku arrives with a souvenir from the Arachne battle, which he hands over to the woman. Her face contorts in shock upon seeing it. She recalls the day her sister was killed in front of her eyes, and her regrets about being trapped there. Now, it's all over, and she'll never have a bad dream again. Amidst her smile, Shachku can see the young and beautiful girl she once was. He bids her goodbye. Kira comments that she's surprised to see Shachku has feelings and priorities beyond speedrunning, noting her changing judgment of him. He explains that what they just did was a subquest called Butterfly in the Cobweb, a lore-related subquest not needed for the true ending. The reward is only one potion, but he wanted to return it to her, as it's her sister's memento. His usual gibberish confuses them. Back at Ada's shield, Miran needs to know Shachiku's plans. She questions why he didn't put in a mercenary request for an S-rank party, as she wanted to help with the Arachne subjugation by introducing them to him. The mercenaries were shocked and depressed to hear Shachiku had already set out without them. Shachiku excuses that the tutorial for the mercenary system is long. Miran apologizes for troubling them on their day off, but mentions an urgent questionnaire from the capital regarding the Arachne subjugation, needing a reply from the sages. Kira announces she'll write a report for the big shots, and notes that it was a fun, albeit short day. Kira tells Shachiku and Danya to enjoy the rest of their day. As they walk, they notice the deserted streets, and it feels like it's just the two of them. Shachiku apologizes for exposing Danya to danger, but she reassures him that Kira recovered in time as planned, so there's no need to apologize. She teases him about treating the world like an artificial game, then admits she trusted both Kira and him during the Arachne subjugation. She hopes he won't betray her expectations. Suddenly, knights surround them and demand they accompany them to the castle, giving them no choice. Shachiku starts to sweat, not recognizing this story event. The knights take him to meet the queen, who reveals she summoned him. Shachiku is shocked, realizing there are two Adas. At the princess's tower, Ada commands the guards to leave, stating she has Danya with her and doesn't need additional protection. Shachiku is puzzled by Ada and Danya existing simultaneously, suspecting a bug. Ada then strips off her costume, revealing herself as Ain, Ada's younger brother and body double. This surprises Shachiku, who didn't know about Ain, despite his extensive knowledge of the game world. Danya notes that Shachiku, who seems to know everything about this world, appears confused. The former king, a lustful man, fathered Ain with a prostitute, making Ain technically Ada's younger uncle. His mother died, and he was ignored by the royal family until they secretly welcomed him as Ada's body double due to his resemblance to her. Ain warns Shachiku that the Arachne subjugation's details are crucial. Although it's unrelated to Shachiku, boasting about the Demon King's defeat is politically sensitive. The Demon King subjugation is a major political agenda, causing waves in the cabinet and the Wise Sages Congress, which supports the kingdom and includes representatives from 6 great duke families. The sages fear the Demon King's retaliation, and have banned anyone but the Otherworld hero from subjugating him. The Congress is uneasy about the rapid Arachne subjugation, and demanded an explanation from the Guildmaster Kira. Ain summoned Shachiku to provide the truth in more detail. Danya tells Shachiku to tell Ain everything, including what they did right after Shachiku was summoned. She warns Ain he's about to hear something crazy, but he needs to be strong. Ain replies he expects it to be a wild story and he won't be surprised. He already knows the Demon King has been defeated. Shachiku goes on to explain that there's a competition in his world called speedrunning to defeat the Demon King. The true ending category involves defeating the Elite Four, but at that point he was running the any %. Danya interjects that the hero is a bit abnormal, and Ain, although flabbergasted, acknowledges there's a limit to abnormality. If this is the case, he says, then anyone would hide this, not to mention Kira. Danya adds that only she and Kira know about the Demon King already being defeated. The roots of evil aren't sealed yet, so revealing this information would only cause pointless confusion. Ain states he trusts his older sister's account, and will try to handle Congress, ensuring they don't interfere with their activities. However, he admits he can't fully trust Shachiku yet, especially given his nonsensical power. Ain then assigns Shachiku a critical task. He needs Shachiku to go help rebuild Tadanka village, a land overrun by Arachne. Now that Arachne is gone, the village is free but vulnerable. Originally, it was a prosperous village with a high demand for adventurers due to its proximity to the capital and a nearby dungeon. The fear is that scoundrels and demons might find it alluring as a new base. With the news of Arachne's defeat likely to spread across the continent in a few days, there's a real danger that another powerful demon might take up residence near the capital again. Ain wants to prevent that from happening by securing Tadanka village as soon as possible. This, he hopes, will help stabilize the region and prevent further threats from emerging. Ain wants to set up minimal facilities in Tadanka village as quickly as possible, and have people from the capital move there. The capital is becoming overcrowded with refugees from all over the country, so this plan would solve two problems at once. Since Shachiku has confidence in his speed, Ain gives him a deadline of 2 weeks to get it done. Ain believes Shachiku can accomplish this, even though Danya objects, stating that building a village is typically a decade-long process. Additionally, she points out that subjugating the Demon King is entirely different from establishing a settlement. Ain doesn't want to dismiss the plan without trying. He clarifies he doesn't expect Shachiku to rebuild the village entirely by himself. He has already arranged the necessary laborers. Ain's real goal is to keep Shachiku in Tadanka village for 2 weeks to repel any scoundrels and demons. He originally wanted to hire other adventurers for this task, but now plans to have them monitor Shachiku and evaluate his abilities during this period. Ain frames this as a challenge, not a royal directive. Shachiku asks if he can construct a curtain wall, a town hall, and prepare fields for the village. He claims he can do it in half an hour, though it's typically a long process. Danya is skeptical but tired of the back and forth, and she scolds her brother for doubting Shachiku, especially while disguised as her. Shachiku says Ain is just trying to protect his sister. Danya apologizes for Ain's skepticism, explaining it's due to his concern for her. She reassures Ain that Shachiku, despite his oddities, is trustworthy and capable. Shachiku decides to take on the task of securing Tadanka village. He plans to enter the village the next morning and complete the task by noon. Ain mentions that he has a conflicting Congress meeting, but will try to check in the afternoon. Shachiku acknowledges the challenge of dealing with unexpected elements, noting that optimizing various game elements is crucial for speedruns. He hopes to finish his task promptly, and believes they've met Princess Ada's expectations well. The princess has sent a letter indicating the Otherworld hero's arrival the next morning. The team discusses Shachiku's rapid defeat of Arachne and wonders about his tactics. They are tasked with assisting in the village rebuilding and reporting on Shachiku's actions, which feels more like an investigation than assistance. The leader plans to apologize to Shachiku for underestimating him. Their discussion is interrupted by an elite-level monster attack, resulting in a team member's instant slaughter. The remaining 2 members of the S-rank group prepare for revenge, but are quickly defeated. She's disappointed by the lack of a challenging battle. She feels bored by the predictable nature of her world. Upon finding and reading Princess Ada's letter about the Otherworld hero, she becomes intrigued. Anticipating their meeting, she licks her lips in excitement, eager to uncover all of his secrets. Kira finds out that Shachiku has finally met Ain, and she calls Ain a crafty kid for trying to contact her before seeing her report. Shachiku is surprised to see Kira back in her bikini armor, and asks her if she's on bad terms with Ain. She tells him that they're neither on good nor bad terms, adding that Ain is quite a contrary person, who doesn't open their heart easily, possibly due to his upbringing. Kira adds that the only person Ain opens his heart to is Ada. Danya tries to convince Kira that Ain might actually like her, but Kira doesn't really believe that, saying that Ain always looked down, and never makes eye contact with her. Shachiku begins to feel strange that the NPCs he knows are now talking about NPCs he doesn't know. Upon approaching Tadanka village, Shachiku, Danya, and Kira are greeted by the slime Raspy, who had earlier transformed into the members of the Silver Dragon Fang. Slime Mashamu explains that they're from the Silver Dragon Fang, an S-rank party from the guild Dragon Bones Sign. The Dragon Bones Sign is a guild from the primeval forest of Dragon Bones in the southern part of the kingdom. Slime Mashamu introduces the other members of the team to Shachiku, and tells him that they're there to assist him. Mashamu even shows Shachiku the authorized letter signed by Ain, which the slime stole from the original Mashamu. Kira introduces herself to them and pleads with them to not treat her formally like a noble because she considers herself an ordinary adventurer. Mashamu tells her that her request helps him a lot, because he's bad with royal etiquette. Shachiku doesn't quite remember who the Silver Dragon Fang is, so he decides to check his archives. That's when he remembers that they are mercenaries a player can summon in battle, and this is his first time seeing them talk, as players only know their names and techniques in Onverse. Shachiku is quite relieved because, unlike Ain, these 3 are NPCs that he knows. Raspy inside the Silver Dragon Fangs is elated that she has finally met Shachiku, and she begins to eye his powerful wooden stick. She then explains that her special ability Brain Gourmand allows her to eat her target's brain. making all their memories her own. She relishes the fact that even though she has successfully devoured the 3 members of the Silver Dragon Fang, they don't suspect her at all. She then declares that even though she could just settle for his stick, she wants to have all of him for herself. However, she decides to put a pause on that thought, because she believes he's a kind of meal that comes once in a blue moon, and it would be a waste to eat him up immediately. The other members of Shachiku's group also introduce themselves. Alaiha then tells Shachiku that she heard rumors about his Arachne subjugation, and she asks him what sort of miracle he used. Shachiku blushes and tells her that he just did his speedrunning as usual. Kira tries to signal Shachiku to be careful of what he's saying, but Alaiha interrupts her, and tells Shachiku that the reason she went on a journey was to master magic and uncover the truth of all things. She adds that she might be able to get closer to her wish if she can also master speedrunning as he does. She grabs Shachiku's hand and tries to seduce him into revealing information about speedrunning. Kira sees this and becomes infuriated. Raspy inside Alaiha becomes elated as she believes that human males are weak to seduction. Shachiku gets excited that Alaiha is asking him about speedrunning, and eagerly agrees to do it with her, suggesting that they speedrun Anverse together. Kira pulls Shachiku away from Alaiha, asking him what he's doing revealing that kind of information to someone he barely knows just because that person is a beautiful woman. Shachiku clarifies that he's only doing it because it is a tradition for hardcore Anverse speedrunners to treat beginners right. He then begins to ramble about how there are only 500 Anverse speedrunners worldwide, and that runners share information on the glitches they discover. However, since years have passed since Anverse hit the stores and players are discovering fewer glitches, the speedrunning route has become too strict. He adds that speedrunning something without new discoveries becomes a game of tracing the existing route with as few mistakes as possible. Shachiku tells Alaiha that what Anverse needs is the perspective of a newcomer like her, as most players' thinking eventually gets stuck when only experts are involved. The chances of finding a new discovery increase if more players join the game. He also mentions that the player who discovered the Arachne wall clip skip used in the current any% route was actually a new runner who had only been running for 2 weeks. Shachiku expresses his desire to make new speedrunning comrades by respectfully supporting beginners, and that is why even if he's up against a scary old man, he patiently teaches them the ins and outs of Anverse. Raspy tries to process the information she just heard and says it's going to be really easy once she eats his brain. She then wishes that she could see him speedrunning live. Danya bonks Shachiku on the head, which makes him realize he's been talking a lot, and he apologizes. Shachiku then calmly explains to Kira that since the rebuilding speedrun route is basically unrelated to the true ending, there wouldn't be any bad endings if anyone knew about the route. Shachiku then announces that they should start the rebuilding speedrun right away. Danya tells him to slow down, and announces that before going on the rebuilding speedrun, there's something they have to do first. All of them go out onto the field to pay homage to the souls who have passed on and to pray for them. Masamu compliments Danya on being quite good at human language, and she tells him that she learned how to speak from Princess Ada. After the small ceremony is over, Shachiku announces that they should begin, and everyone is shocked when Shachiku suddenly pulls out a frying pan. The team enters the Falshla dungeon to gather materials needed for the building speedrun. Evil spirits are known to gather deep within dungeons, where miasma-laden branches extend from the roots of evil. Due to the strong miasma, defeated monsters will revive 1 day after dying. While dashing through the dungeon, the team encounters a frog monster. Raspy fears the others will begin to suspect her if she doesn't fight, so she suddenly readies the weapon of the Silver Dragon Fang members. However, she is shocked when Shachiku and his team completely ignore the frogman and continue running. Shachiku explains that the dungeon has only 1 mini-boss every 5 floors, but they only need to defeat the mini-boss on the 5th underground floor, so they ignore all other monsters to save time. Kira mentions that Shachiku did the same thing the day before, and Danya adds that this dungeon is much easier compared to the spider-filled one. 2 minutes into the dungeon, they finally come face to face with a stone golem. Shachiku stops, and informs them that the stone golem is their main target. It is huge, with high defense and HP, making it a tough challenge for beginners. However, it only takes 1 hit from the strange rod to destroy it. Shachiku demonstrates this by destroying the golem in a single strike. Raspy, excited by the rod, calls it amazing. After defeating the stone golem, they receive a reward of 12 stones and an adamantine flower. Shachiku mentions that they need a total of 180 stones to reconstruct the curtain wall and the housing. He notes that while they could use a duplication bug to gather only stones, they need 3 more types of random drops this time. So they will continue defeating the stone golem until they get everything they need. Kira and Danya are confused because Shachiku has just killed the only stone golem, and no matter how much miasma is in a dungeon, the stone golem won't revive until the next day. Shachku tells them that's where the frying pan comes into play. He then suggests they all return to Underground 4F for the moment. While going through Underground 4F, he mentions to them that there's a treasure chest with healing items and a hearth for cooking there, and that in many games a player would encounter such a recovery area right before a boss fight. He brings out the frying pan and tells them that he needs to cook at that spot. Raspy wonders if he wants them to cook because he doesn't want them to fight on an empty stomach. However, Shachku has other plans in mind. He begins to vibrate, surprising Raspy as she witnesses the awkward sight. After a while, he stops vibrating and explains that he's both equipped and unequipped the frying pan at the same time, putting them in a superposition state. Kira wonders what Shachku means by superposition, and Danya asks him what the difference is between superposition and the duplication he showed them before. Shachku then explains that while the cooking command in the game only allows players to cook food items, speedrunners can achieve the impossible in the superposition state, which suddenly gives them the ability to cook gold. Everyone is disgusted by the thought of him cooking coins. After cooking the coins for a while, the coins disappear, and an object labeled number 151 appears on the pan. The object takes the form of a no image symbol, and Shachku explains that the object is unused data that was present during development, but was not implemented in the final game, so it's an unused item. He further explains that it appears as an error message, probably because the graphics weren't finalized. Shachku shocks everyone by demonstrating that a player can eat the error symbol because it is still considered a meal. The others look horrified and yell at him to spit it out. After Shachku finishes eating, he leads the team back to the underground 5th floor. Surprisingly, upon reaching it, they're all amazed to find that the stone golem has returned. Shachku explains that eating object number 151 does not advance game time, yet volunteer analysis has shown that 1 day does pass in the game system. Since it wasn't implemented in the game, there is no way to know what object number 151 was supposed to be for. But speedrunners have discovered that eating it causes a day to pass without advancing the in-game timer. This is why Onverse speedrunners call object number 151 the meal that leaps through time. Thanks to this, they can hunt golems as many times as they want in a day, repeating the process until they obtain the needed stones and drop items. Eliha confesses to Kira and Danya that she doesn't really understand the meaning of Shachiku's explanation, and Kira admits that they don't get it either, and suggests that Shachiku might be talking to himself to confirm his speedrunning process. Raspy then realizes the otherworld hero is really good at monologuing. 16 minutes and 18 loops later, they finally gather all of the necessary materials. Shachiku then announces that their next step is to return to the village tent using a Matatabi travel. Danya teleports everyone back to the village, where Shachiku explains that they should place the stones they gathered in the material yard. Since they've collected all the materials from the dungeon, the only thing they need now is manpower. Shachiku instructs Danya to use Matatabi travel to transport them all to the capital. Raspy realizes she won't be able to enter the capital because of the protective barrier. Using a Masamu, she comes up with an excuse, saying that Silver Dragon Fang Guild members should stay behind to watch over the materials. However, before Masamu can say anything further, Danya activates Matatabi travel, teleporting everyone away. On the way to the capital, the protective barrier prevents Raspy from passing through, inadvertently kicking her out while allowing the others to slip through. She falls right outside the entrance to the capital, and without wasting time, she leaps on a guard and swallows him whole. After successfully teleporting inside the capital, Kira begins to wonder where the Silver Dragon Fang members are, but Danya tells her that Shachiku will go ahead of them if they don't hurry. Kira still can't shake the thought that the guild members were unable to reach the capital despite teleporting alongside everyone else. At the Carpenters Guild, specifically at the Gnome Group's mansion, the group chief, Baron May, yells at Shachiku for suddenly asking to borrow his workers. He explains that his workshop personnel are all first-rate. The capital's town walls were built by their gnome group, and even Falshla's overnight castle was their achievement from 2 generations ago. They only take on first-rate jobs. Shachiku then asks how he can get Baron May to approve him as first-rate. Baron May tells him that if he's an adventurer, he should start by bringing him some rare items, such as an adamantine flower. Baron May is shocked when Shachiku quickly places an adamantine flower on the table before he even finishes his sentence. Next, he asks for a dwarven dice, and Shachiku promptly produces it. Before Baron May can even mention the next items, Shachiku brings them out, leaving Baron May speechless as he wonders how Shachiku knows what to bring before he even asks. Baron May, though, has no choice but to approve of Shachiku and lend him his men. As the team then teleports back to the village, they're shocked to see that there is already a frame situated there. even though they had just come from the Carpenters Guild. Shachiku explains that because he loaded the map using the Matatabi Travel, the work-in-progress buildings appeared ahead of time. The gnomes arrive later and they all begin to fix the buildings. The Silver Dragon Fang also arrives later and lies, claiming that the reason they got separated from the rest was because they found some goblins loitering on the outskirts of the village. Kira doesn't quite believe them though. Even though the gnomes were working fast, Danya realized that they wouldn't be done before the 30-minute mark. But then Shachiku surprises them by bringing out yet another object, number 151, and explains he made some extras earlier. In the blink of an eye, Tadanka village is completely restored in exactly 28 minutes and 37 seconds. Everyone is at a loss for words, and Shachiku is proud of himself for setting a new record of 28 minutes. Compared to their estimate of 30, Raspy becomes exhilarated by Shachiku's feat, and begins to salivate, realizing she can't hold herself back from wanting to eat Shachiku anymore. At the royal castle about 2 kilometers from Tadanka village, Ain is deeply disturbed and shocked to see through his binoculars that the village has been completely destroyed. He instructs his guard to prepare a ride to Tadanka village. The guard reminds him of their previously scheduled meeting, but Ain insists on postponing it, considering the situation in the village more urgent. Ain feels both defeated and enraged that Shachiku managed to rebuild the village in such a short time. Meanwhile, back in the village, Raspy in the form of Alaiha continues to salivate as she gazes at Shachiku, slowly approaching him, ready to devour him. She realizes that if she does, it would be the 4th human she's eaten in a row, and considers whether it might be more satisfying to turn the situation into a confit since she's already come this far. She begins to wonder if Shachiku might already know she's there given his route. Shachiku starts to sense a gaze and the aura of someone watching him from behind. When he turns around, he sees Alaiha, and innocently asks if she's hungry. In response, he prepares a sumptuous meal for everyone by himself. The others stare at the food with suspicion, since it's the first time they've seen such a dish. It takes a lot of convincing from Shachiku before they agree to eat. Still wary of the members of the Silver Dragon Fang, Alaiha encourages them to try the meal, assuring them she found it delicious. Alaiha giggles and agrees to oblige. Ain arrives at the village in a carriage and seems unhappy to see that Shachiku truly kept his word. Kira welcomes Alaiha to the village, and begins to admire her enormous breasts, commenting that it has been a while since they last met. Ain inspects the building and confirms it is indeed well structured. He acknowledges Shachiku's efforts and thanks him. Ain then announces that he didn't come to the village alone and that he brought someone else who should be there. He asks someone to step out of the carriage, and the group is shocked to see it is the old woman from the village. The woman is surprised and feels like she's in a dream. She even notes that although the village has changed quite a bit from the past, the stone houses are still uniquely the same. Just then, the woman's skilled judgment self-activates, and she sees the true form of the members of the Silver Dragon Fang. As she tries to alert Shachiku to get out of the way, Raspy lunges at him and nearly swallows him whole, but Kira quickly steps in to save him. Kira is able to deal considerable damage to Raspy's core, but not enough to kill her. Shachiku, on the other hand, is too stunned to react upon realizing that one of the members of the Demon Elite Four had been with them all along. Kira wonders why Raspy is there, until she finally remembers that Raspy can take on the appearance and memories of people she has devoured. She then realizes Raspy must have devoured the 3 members of the Silver Dragon Fang. Everyone is surprised to see that Raspy actually managed to take Shachiku's stick, and she tells them she'll keep it as a souvenir. She then reaches out to grab Ain and Danya simultaneously, but Alaiha quickly steps in to save Danya, while Ain's guard fails to protect him. Raspy decides to leave with just Ain, and tells Shachiku that if he wants to save him, he should come to the Swamp of Starvation. Raspy then teleports away with Ain. Shachiku is too stunned to understand what is happening. He tries to process everything. The Elite Four's Raspy left the Swamp of Starvation, stole his rod and abducted Ain, an NPC who wasn't even supposed to appear. He's even more confused because this scenario has never existed in Onverse. Danya pleads with Shachiku to hurry up and save Ain before he gets killed. Alaiha steps up and says she's against it. She then asks Shachiku if the assault was unexpected, because she knows there's no way the usual him would lose his composure over such a surprise attack. This means that the fight against the slime is not part of his route, and to make matters worse, his wooden stick was stolen too. She wonders if he plans on dying in vain. Alaiha tells Danya that they should be fully prepared for the battle, even if it takes time, and adds that a body double is meant for situations like this. Shachiku notices how sad Danya is about the capture of her brother, and tells Alaiha that while Raspi's appearance was unexpected, she is still the Raspi of the Elite Four that he knows. He adds that there is still plenty of room to win, since they need to go to the Swamp of Starvation, which means they'll be back on the regular route. However, Shachiku acknowledges it will be difficult because he can't recover the strange rod, but there are still other ways to defeat Raspi. He admits that although he displayed a shameful sight earlier, he will try to make up for it with backup strategies. Alaiha informs them that to pass through the Swamp of Starvation, they'll have to cross the Dragon's Tail mountain range. It takes 2 hours to go around it by land, and the monsters get bigger the farther they go from the capital. Even griffins can't reach the area by air due to the high altitude. Shachiku smiles and tells them he knows of a glitch that can get them there in 15 minutes.